are again with the BAM Biz Talk podcast with BAM Consulting and the new Mayor of Midland, Miss Lori Blong. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, and congratulations to you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Double that.
For sure.
It's been a good 2 weeks of being mayor.
Oh my God.
You know, it's like what we say about entrepreneurs, right? Or the saying about entrepreneurs, right? You just got to jump and figure out how to fly.
That's exactly right.
Don't hit bottom.
That's exactly right.
We got confidence.
Well, thank you.
Do a good job.
Thank you.
So, we're very interested in you're an entrepreneur. You have a history of business. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Sure. I was actually born and raised here in Midland, and my dad was in the oil and gas space, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so went all the way through Midland schools, and actually graduated from Midland High and went on to Hardin-Simmons University, and was there for 3 years. So I graduated high school in 3 years and then college in 3 years, and so then I'm 20 years old, and I have to be a grown-up, and nobody told me that was too fast, and so wasn't really ready. I was in a big hurry, and I don't know why. That was kind of my early education, and then spent 5 years teaching high school in El Paso, Coronado. It was fun. It was very fun. I love the kids. If I could have just taught kids, then I would have kept doing that for a long time. But the other, the other drama of what it is to be an educator was too much for me, and so I exited that space and stayed home with my own kids for a few years. And then my husband and I started a small business in 2013. So that's a little background on me.
It's still going, right?
It's still going. Yeah, it was 2013, and that was a small consulting firm. And we can get into more details about that if you want to.
I'd love to. In fact, one of my questions would be what were some of the ups and downs of just starting the business?
Yeah, so in 2013 when we started, my husband, we staked our life savings in a business. I had my I had my third baby. My dad passed away, and we lost 2 grandparents between us, and my third baby had some health issues. And so it was just a perfect storm of a year of life. We all look back and have those years where you think, how did I survive that year? So 2013 was that year for me. And so it was really through the diligence and perseverance of my husband that our business was successful, because he was able to keep that going when I was dealing with postpartum depression and all the other things that happened that year.
That's a lot.
So it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot to push through, and a lot to just, have faith and show up the next day to work a little harder again.
It's being forged in the fire.
It is.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and she's got a husband, too, that really is bright enough to take care of just about everything you can throw at him.
It's very true. Very true.
He's remarkable.
And then his wife is the mayor. Y'all are like a super team.
A power team. Yeah. A power team, yeah.
There's no Batman and Robin here.
That's right. That's right. So, we've kind of hung together through all of that and got that up and going in 2013. Wow. What the goal actually was to just have this consulting firm to pay our bills while he was doing a fundraise to build drilling rigs. And he wanted to have 3 to 5 highly technologically advanced, kind of pushing the envelope on technology for drilling. And so the consulting firm was just the little ancillary thing, and that was not going to be the big picture. But through all the fundraising and everything that happened, nearly got that closed about 6 different times. We had deals that looked like they would close, and then they fell through. And then the bottom fell out of the oil and gas space at Thanksgiving, Black Friday of 2014. And we woke up and realized we have no debt. We don't owe anybody any money because we didn't build these drilling rigs. We never successfully got to a deal. Maybe that was the Lord's protection for us, that we didn't get the thing we thought we wanted.
Yeah. You didn't overcommit.
Right. And so we looked up, and we had this consulting practice that was being really successful, and we decided, let's just go all in on this consulting practice and develop that out fully, be thankful for the thing that we have that's working, and press forward in that. And so we pivoted. And, the challenges came, and we looked at what was working and what wasn't, and we went with what was working.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what entrepreneurs do.
Let me ask, what was would you consider to be the value proposition that you were offering to your market space?
I think this was really Jared's vision to be really people-oriented. As we were putting out consult, and he is very people-oriented, but to be able to put people out to intentionally have experts in their field for well site consulting. Right. So drilling, completions, and production were our 3 main areas of specialty, but especially drilling in those early days, to find the best, most qualified person for the specific job. And so those guys functioned as the general contractor on a drilling location or a completions location. And so we were resourcing them, and we were able to provide them the insurance that they needed and the training that they needed and the back office support. But one of the main value propositions we found was that we paid quickly. If they could get us their invoice on a Wednesday, we would get them paid by Friday.
Wow.
And we would do that every week.
That's unheard of.
So that was the thing that really attracted, because in that situation, you're marketing yourself to the consultant and to the business where the consultant will be working. And so we found ourselves really able to be marketable because we paid so quickly.
That's your differentiator, big time in the oil and gas industry, because everybody's taking 60, 90 days, 120 in some cases to pay.
Right.
Mostly 120.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other side of me is when did you think that you can do this? And really, what kind of drove that home to you that, look, we can do this, and this is why?
I think that Jared was the one that believed we could do this, and I believed in Jared and his ability to do this. Yeah. And so he was really the risk taker, and I didn't believe myself to be an entrepreneur in those early days. I thought I wanted a safe thing that was really predictable, but I was willing to let him try his dream. We had saved some money, and so this is the time when we're young and we have time to make it up. If we are not successful, let's try it. So really it was believing in him. I think my role in the company came in as we were ramping up so quickly, and he needed help and support, and so I came in to do that help and support, and then quickly found myself handling all of our corporate finances as we grew way beyond what we thought we would grow to. And so that corporate finance piece was where my niche came in, to manage cash flow, to manage all of these different things. And it was a lot. So,
especially if you haven't done it very much, and all of a sudden you've got a growth potential here, right? And you're not prepared for that. And I'll be honest with you, I find that a lot of companies get to that point, and that's when they start to fail. Mm-hmm. They get, one, overwhelmed. Two, they don't know how to, let's say, manage money. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be a huge problem. And in fact, that's probably around, I would say, somewhere in the 80s, upper or lower 90s percentile of failure is monies. Mm-hmm. But that's not really the huge failure. The huge failure is the idea that we've got a product and we can't sell it. Mm-hmm. So the idea has no ability to enter into the marketplace because we don't have any idea if it'll even work. Mm-hmm. That's why I was asking you, typically we have a proof of concept somewhere that tells us, I know we can do this. Not that I think we can do it. It's the idea we know we can do this. Mm-hmm. And I know a little bit about your husband, and I just can't imagine that he'd be any other way.
Right. He's very driven. He makes me look like milk toast, actually.
Oh, wow. Did you tell him you're mayor?
Well, I do have to remind him occasionally.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let me ask, how far have you grown? I mean, you started off small, and all of a sudden it sounds like you've really gotten out there.
Yeah, so we grew over, started in 2013, actually got down in 2015, the summer of 2015. We only had one consultant working continuously, and we got down to where our cash position, we knew how many days of operating capital we had left in the bank, and we were looking at how are we going to go forward.
I hope a lot of people just heard you. We had an idea of how much cash flow we had to cover us.
Right. Yeah.
Good point.
And so we had a client that came to us that Jared had been calling on faithfully for years, and he'd never given us any work. And Jared went one more time, and he said, if you can pull me 15 guys together, I'll give you all this work. And so Jared was able to get it done. And so that was a pivotal moment. We grew from one guy in the field the summer of 2015 until 2018 and 19, we had 140. And so that was a lot of guys to manage, and a lot of moving parts. But unfortunately, after COVID, 2 weeks after oil went negative, we had 14 of those guys that still had jobs, because all of those drilling jobs, they had laid off their personnel. And so we looked up and we had a critical mass of consultants, and we'd had a lot of success, but we only had 14 guys, and we had too many commitments for our insurance policy and for some other things to be we couldn't sustain our insurance policy with 14 guys. And so it was painful. It was really painful, but we looked around the space that we were in and had two competitors that offered to pay us a little something for the MSAs for our bigger companies. And so we sold mostly to keep those guys in a job. We were not sure how we were going to be able to keep those guys in a job and be able to meet our commitments. And so we sold those MSAs to competitors in 2020. And it's my first term on city council. and we exited the space. We kept on with one or two consultants on some projects that we were co-invested with,
Right.
that we didn't need those insurance policies and those high limits because we were part of the deal. And we kept on in that space and ran ahead. And then Jared pivoted out and got a job with another company for a couple of years. And he did a great job for them. And I took, the little money that we had made on that from our competitor that paid us for
Right.
our book of business. I hired a reservoir engineer, and he and I started vetting oil and gas deals. There was a lot of stuff available because the commodity markets were down, and
Right.
so we could acquire something for relatively inexpensive. And so he and I started vetting these deals and making offers on things, and we finally closed on one in 2021. So about a year of looking, almost exactly a year to the day from when we sold our book of business, we were able to find an oil and gas asset, a production asset. And so we bought something in Ector County, and he and I ran that, ended up changing up our team a little bit, and now have expanded that quite a bit. And so, yeah, and Jared's come back to Octane, and he's running things again with me. And so it's been not without its hiccups and difficulties.
Did he come back because you said either get your butt here or I'm out?
No.
I'm just teasing.
I think that there was a moment there's lots of moments actually where I thought I'm a high school social studies teacher. I'm not qualified to vet oil and gas assets on paper. I do know what I'm doing, but it's because I've learned it on the
Right.
job. But there's a lot of moments, I think, as an entrepreneur where you look up and you're like, I'm not qualified to do this. I can't pull it off.
Hopefully they're smart enough to say that.
Exactly.
And to find the guy that can help you
Exactly.
get it done. And so, we've had a big group of folks, the right banker and the right insurance agent and the right folks standing behind us to give us the resources we need to go ahead with the stuff that we know how to do,
Absolutely.
which is oil and gas. And so that's been a huge benefit to us.
It's all about relationships and resources.
It is.
And I'll be honest, that's been most of my success is having resources and those really, really important resources, especially during the times where, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't know what direction to take this. And, we can't be a pro at everything that enables us that success. So why not depend on others to help us get there while you're sharing the experience? That's missed a lot
Right.
for some of these smaller companies that don't realize how important maybe your competitor could be to you.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in the restaurant business during COVID, I have heard people exchanging foods because they couldn't get them and still keeping their competitor alive and well in the
Right.
market.
Right. Well, and I have found in the oil and gas space, because that's what I'm most familiar with, most of the time, if you are a gracious competitor and you're willing to, we don't all show how the sausage is made, right?
Right.
We have some things that are
Right.
proprietary,
For sure.
but to the extent that we're gracious and we're willing to share ideas, it's beneficial to everybody. And
It really
there's
is.
really no drawback to that. And so I think that a lot of people here in Midland see that and believe that.
I do too. I think the new people coming in need to understand the importance of it. But really, that is the aim for success, is being able to share your ideas, your thoughts, your experiences. In fact, we have a board that's full of resources that actually surrounds our startups with all sorts of resources. Really, what we're trying to do is stop the failure rate of 97% over the course of 5 years. And really increase their sustainability within the marketplace here.
Right.
We don't want to help people get into business and say, well, good luck. See you later. We really want to be that partner for the life of the business. So that's typically what we've been doing ever since we've opened our doors. Other than, doing things that maybe are missed, we don't have, we have educational components. We have a wide variety of expertise. And again, I will never say I know it all, because we're all constantly learning to be the best that we can be.
Right.
And obviously that's what you had to go through.
Oh, for sure. And I think that in a business that's as cyclical and ever changing as the oil and gas space, you have to be ready to pivot. And if you don't pivot when it's time, then you die.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the name of the game is keeping your name in the phone book, as Tim Dunn has said. And if you're able to keep your name in the phone book, then you're going to live to fight another day. But
That's
it's when you panic and you make a knee-jerk reaction that you find yourself where you can't keep your name in the
Absolutely.
phone
I think
book.
it's the difference between being proactive and reactive, right? I like something you said earlier, your team, right? You had to change up your team some. So you're building your team. You're
Right.
building your warriors who are going to go to war for you.
Right.
I think that's so important. That a lot of business owners, they look at a resume, great credentials,
Yeah.
right? But what about their character? What about, the untouchables?
Right. Does it match
Yeah.
with the culture?
Right.
Right. And I think that was, I said that it was painful when we had to sell all of that in 2020. And I think the most painful part of it was we had the best team we'd ever had. You build this building block, everybody's their own piece and all the gears that have to shift in the cogs of this thing. And we had it down. We were clicking along and we liked the people we were working with. It was going so well and we couldn't sustain it. And so the pain of that, these become your family and you've walked through hard things together. And so that part of it was pretty traumatic. And we're still actually rebuilding after that because there were several key folks that we were not able to sustain through that. So it's hard and it's difficult. I think it's the thing that keeps me engaged in entrepreneurialism though, is this ability to employ people and to push forward with human flourishing. That's one of the things that we talk about a lot in our shop. What are we doing this for? Of course we want to make a profit, but we want to bring other people along with us and increase their level of success. And so.
Absolutely. Something that Michael always says is, when I hire somebody, I'm not hiring them, I'm hiring their family. Mm-hmm. Right. So he said that quite often. It's true, right? Because they got people to feed, and
they depend on your choices,
right?
Your decisions to make sure that you're driving the business in the right direction. So, they can depend on you as much as you depend on them. It becomes a mutual effect.
Yep.
I often wondered when do you find, I know now you're going to be really hard to find time, but when you were in this, going through all this, what was it like to find the right employees? Being able to have them a part of that now that we're speaking about employees.
I think one of the things that we learned actually from someone that hired Jared when we were in our 20s. When we lived in El Paso and he was applying for a job and he had several job interviews. And then the final interview was with his boss and his wife. And they interviewed both of us. So it was like the final thing was we went to dinner with them and spent some serious time with them. And because they were hiring Jared for a meaningful role and they wanted to make sure that there was great alignment. And we learned something from that. And so as we're hiring key folks, we do the same thing now. Yeah. We have a dinner with, Jared and I go together with their spouse. And we've found that to be really important. As a couple, I pick up on things that are different than Jared. Absolutely. And vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so the two sets of eyes on something to pick up areas of concern or things to bring up. And it helps because we're both in our business too. So we know technically what are needed. The skills that are needed there, but we also pick up on the soft things. What are the value structures and the intangibles that are going to be really important for a long-term.
Yeah. No, I love that. So Henry Ford used to hire people, his main people like that, to take them out to eat. Yeah. And he'd even get so detailed to where if they put salt on their food before they tasted it, he would, nope, you're too impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to say, my wife has always been really good at the interviews. I kind of go with what my heart and my gut says. Mm-hmm. And she's more of a departmental, working in departments of what she's getting back from each one of the folks that she's interviewing. I find that to be, very strategic. And she's really taught me a lot, even though I've done this for, I don't know how many people I've interviewed, but she is extremely, and I hope she's listening because I'm sure maybe I'll get a special dinner or something when I get home.
Talk her up.
Yeah. She is absolutely one of the smartest people I've ever met in an interview situation to where she can pick it apart without you even realizing, and I'm sure you're capable of doing that, without even realizing, the guy sitting next to you is saying, wow, I didn't think about all that until we got outside talking about it. Mm-hmm. And now it's like it's a huge puzzle that just came together with her abilities of acknowledging what's important and what's not.
Mm-hmm. I think, to me, it's why it's a benefit to have men and women at tables of decision making, because there are things that men see that women don't see and vice versa. And so when we have a plurality of leadership, that's representative of a broader group of people, we're going to make better decisions. And so that that pertains to decision making on who you're going to hire, but it also goes to, what I'm doing on city council to have female voices with male voices at the table making decisions. We make better decisions for our community as a whole.
Yeah, the projection of thought, understanding, knowledge. I mean, it all comes together from different avenues. Going back to employees, one of the biggest things I find that's a huge problem here is being able to keep employees. Do you have any insight on maybe how some of these employers throughout the Permian can keep an employee?
One of the things, and I would say we've had good employee retention with the exception of 2020, which was catastrophic and painful. But other than that, we've done well. And I think it's because we learned early on that compensation needs to be aligned to the drivers of that employee. So we can't have a blanket compensation structure for everyone. It needs to be commiserate. But there are people who are very motivated by working on commission, and they want to work on commission because they want to be able to be the authors of their own destiny, so to speak. And they're motivated by that. But then there's other people that are crippled by working on commission, and they can't do their job because they're too worried about making ends meet.
Stressed.
And so we have found that having individualized conversations with folks to say, what motivates you? Do you want a really robust benefits package? And you want us to make sure that we're giving you plenty of days off? There's just different ways that we've structured things so that we align that to what drives them. And then they feel like they really are being compensated. And there's some people that, like me, I'm not super motivated by a paycheck because there are other things that are drivers for me. And so I think that we have to get to know our people and know what their drivers are.
I love what you just said. Yeah, it's not money that really drives me either. I think what really drives me is keep my head down, working, good things will follow. I've always believed in that. So I've never pushed it aside thinking it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I believe if you keep driving yourself to the point you want to be, the milestones will unfold. And next thing you know, those things are actually behind you and with you. Have you not looked back? So motivators for me is really truly of accomplishing something you want to accomplish and yet being creative to do that without constraints.
Right.
So that makes the most of me. I think that I actually swim upstream better that way. How about you, Angel?
Yeah, no, it's about purpose. It's about mission. It's about what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to leave behind? Even from a more personal, egocentric type of deal, like, well, what are you leaving as your legacy? Right, your family legacy. What are you trying to call your community legacy? Right. What does that look like, and where do you see yourself? So I guess that's a good question. Right now, you're stepping into the highest seat in the town. Right. Like, what is your purpose? What's your mission here?
I think building strong, stable organizations is really a driver for me. So to start with my family, it's really important that my family has a strong, stable foundation, and that the major cogs of our life are clicking along the way that they need to. And in my business, that we would have a strong, stable foundation. We have the financial health and the cash management and the personnel and all of those things that are foundational to an organization to be able to move forward with confidence to attack new challenges and new opportunities. And the same thing for a city. We need to have a firm foundation. And to me, those things are our human resources, which is our primary asset as a community. I mean, we're one of the largest employers, not the largest, but one of the largest employers in the city of Midland. And we need to take care of our personnel. And we've not always done a good job of that. And so, we have to give attention to that in every level, but especially to police and fire and some of our public safety, because our community depends on it.
Absolutely.
And then the second thing would be facilities. We have all of these assets of our community, buildings that are the responsibility of the city council and the city staff to maintain.
Right.
Some of those are failing right now. And so we need to give some attention to some of our city facilities. Another one would be infrastructure. So roads and water.
Always.
We got to have those things.
Yeah, always.
And then, beyond that would be our finances, making sure, and maybe those are not in any particular order. Human resources is definitely first. I think the other three kind of hold hands. But the finances of our community with taxpayer dollars and the fees that come in, we have to be responsible to the taxpayers and to the people of Midland to manage those things well. And so those are the foundational things we have to get right.
You mentioned about human resources. I think that's extremely important, especially how we gather them. I just had a conversation with a pretty good size employer, and what he was telling me is we're kind of swaying away a little bit from degrees and looking for specializations. And I thought, well, that's really amazing, only because I've always thought degree. He goes, no, it's the idea, and I've gone through this, where you hire somebody with a degree, then you spend 2 to 3 months trying to train them to get them into where you're trying to ensure your flow of business. Come to find out, what they're really looking for is specialization. So that means we don't have to train if they can get specialized in a field in which we're looking for. And that way you just take off the job. There was a huge problem with this at one time, where we would take our best guy, train that person, spend 2 or 3 months with them, and then get them into the system, get them into the healthcare and the retirement and all the other things that HR has to do. And then turn around 3 months later, after getting the training, they would turn around and walk. Now, that doesn't sound like, well, that's no big deal. It is a big deal, because we just spent about $6,000, if not more, to train that person, get them into the system, have everybody who's touched the paperwork to process all that, and then turn around and they leave.
It's a real cost to your bottom line. It really is.
It is.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of looking at the idea of, okay, let's maybe get some specialization, so I don't have to waste my $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 worth of monies trying to train you. You turn around and you take a course and you get certified, get a certification or something within that need, and hey, we put you to work, and we'll check on you in 3 months.
Yeah. There's actually an organization here in Midland you may have heard of called Skill Point Alliance. It's a group that is training kids and adults who didn't receive their high school diploma in many cases. So they'll help them with the GED if they want to do that, but they'll also just help them get an electrician's certificate and different things. So I was privileged to be at one of the graduations for one of their courses, and there were electrical contractors there, like at the graduation, offering people jobs and recruiting. And so I think that is a testament to good work in Midland from the nonprofit sector for Skill Point Alliance, but also the need in our community for some of those skills that we just don't have enough of.
Yeah, and we've, I think now we have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 courses of certifications. And really we've started to build that quite a bit with the interview I've had with somebody else, that that's what they're looking for. So again, it's the idea of getting somebody, put them into the job, get them some money for what they've learned, specialized, and the way they run. And again, I don't have to invest a whole lot of money into them.
Right.
And yet we can look at their performance after a 3-month period and see where they are.
Yep. That's perfect.
Yeah. But anyway, I see a lot of different movements going on in Midland. And I really am happy for that, because I live here. I want to see that happen. And I really want to be a part of our community to enable it.
Right.
So that's where we are, is BAM.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Very exciting. One thing I do want to point out that has changed in the last 3 years. So Sarah Harris at the Midland Development Corporation worked with our council, in our previous council and mayor, to really get some metrics put in place so that local folks with an existing business can expand their business with help from the MDC. So if they can demonstrate that they're adding to our tax basis, or they're adding to employees in Midland with a job, then they're eligible to apply for some of those things.
We need to find out about that.
So previously, it seemed like, and this is not entirely a fair characterization, but there were many times where the outward appearance was that you had to know somebody to be able to attract those incentives. And so we wanted to democratize that and make that available to everyone. And so we've got those metrics in place. We have some groups that are taking advantage of it. And I really think that's to the benefit of our community, especially to the entrepreneurial community.
Yes. And we do. We've worked with 8 to 12-year-old companies that they're not growing.
Right.
In fact, they become stagnant. And one of my sayings is, you got to keep it fresh, new, and exciting. Otherwise, the relationship between customers and you becomes stale. It's kind of like the same thing you have at home. If you've got a romance going and it goes stale, trust me, that's why they call that the 7-year itch. And the same thing holds true with customers and new businesses. Apple is a great one for that. They come out with something new every year. And because they come out with something every year, it's and not to mention they have a great marketing campaign and strategy for that to attract the younger crowd. But they do keep it fresh, new, and exciting. New things happening.
That's right.
Anything else that you can tell us about the direction of small businesses in Midland and maybe things that might be available other than the growth?
The only other thing that we haven't really talked about is what we're calling our one-stop shop. So that if you are actually putting in a new building or facility, whether that's adding a porch to your house or a pergola, or if it's actually a new building and you're starting from scratch and you're doing all the engineering design work, we have a place at the Customer Service Center on Andrews Highway by the old Albertsons. I guess it's a Market Street now.
Yeah.
So right over there, you can go in and meet with everyone you need to talk to be able to do that. And then we'll also have some access to that at City Hall on the first floor where you're able to go in and meet with them. It's not open quite yet, but we're getting that up and going. And then we have something that we call the pre-development meeting. So if you are developing something larger in Midland, you can go and sit down in one meeting and you talk to the fire marshal and the engineering design services folks and the city planner, water and sewer, everybody that you need to develop your plan well, so that you find out if there's going to be any costs that you're not anticipating or anything that you're not contemplating. And so I think that's a really important thing to know about if you're going to develop in the city of Midland.
Absolutely, because you're streamlining the process.
Right.
And everybody who needs to know is in the know.
Yep. So,
I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
We've got companies that we're actually working with in Houston, which the gap analysis shows that they're a pretty good fit here. They're going to, if they make this move, it brings over probably 80, 70 something employees.
Yeah.
So that's something we're trying to figure out, whether or not we can sell Midland to them. There's also a distribution center out of Boston, pharmaceutical. We've talked with them quite a numerous of times. They like the idea about being in Midland so they can work El Paso, of course, Dallas and Austin. So, we need to try to put together something maybe so we can make that happen, because they'll bring a lot of employees as well and a lot of growth. Anything else you want to put out there for small businesses? What you're doing? You got the last say. You got it.
Well, I not really. I just want to say that Midland's a great place to have a business, and we are friendly to entrepreneurialism here. And so whether that's the restaurant space or the distributorship, as you've talked about, or the oil and gas space, service companies and E&P companies, it's a good place to start a business. And there's a lot of folks that are friendly as investors and as people that can be support to you. And so if you're wondering when you're going to be able to do it, I think now's the time. You're never going to be totally ready to jump out there and get it done. Sometimes you do it in the middle of the worst year of your life, like me, and it works out because you push through it. So I think now's the time, and Midland's the place.
I can't agree more. I think Midland is the place. I just think we got to get people to understand that and sending the message that they can come here and look, we've got a great place for you to make revenue.
Absolutely.
And I love that. Now's the time.
That's right.
Right.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Well, Mayor, we know you got to run.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me. I really have enjoyed this a lot.
We enjoyed having you. I'm very, very thankful that you're here with us.
Well, thank you. Y'all have a wonderful day.
You too, and good luck.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, best wishes.
Absolutely. Good luck to y'all too.
Thank you very much.